And the Bigwood Event Center delivered. From their fast Wi-Fi to reliable microphones and projectors, everything worked great. It gave us peace of mind and it allowed us to put on a polished professional presentation. Their setup let us focus on what mattered most, getting our message across. Meetings with impact begin at bigwoodeventcenter.com.
How far would you drive for a great deal?
47.
61.
44.
I drove 89 miles. Customers go many extra miles for their quality Toyota. Sienna, Camry, Avalon all come standard with the quality Toyota no haggle, no hassle price guarantee. View the bottom line price online before you drive, because that's the price you'll pay. Quality Toyota. What's your number? West Lincoln Avenue in Fergus Falls or at qualitytoyota.net. Let's go places.
Modern marketing with a local touch. That's Leighton Media. We influence audiences across the state using traditional media and a complete portfolio of marketing services designed to grow your business. From event and video production to complete radio branding campaigns, our team is dedicated to helping you share your message and get the results your business expects. Ready to make an impact? Connect with Leighton Media today. Our team is ready to work for you. Leighton Media, your success starts here.
It's Morning Talk on News Talk 1250 KBRF, brought to you by Pioneer Care and Fergus Falls Monument Company. Now, here's Mary Dolan and Dave Bishop.
Good Thursday morning. It is Thursday morning, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Welcome to Morning Talk, normally hosted by Dave Bishop and Mary Dolan, but for a special day today, we have myself, Derek Sidian, and Zach Daniels. Zach, thank you for joining me on today's show.
Absolutely glad to be here.
All right, so how's it going? It's probably been a little while since you've been on Morning Talk. What have you been up to?
Well, it's been a little bit of a grind. Every day's different, between regular production and, being an announcer on sister station Real Rock Z103 and KJ Country 96.5. I keep myself busy with the Where to Eat Food show and doing a little bit of sales and production, stuff like that. So every day is a little bit different, and every day's a kind of a blessing and a dream coming into work. I don't feel like you're grinding. You just come in and you really enjoy what I do. So every day's different.
Yeah. So let's talk about the latest Where to Eat was posted last Friday. What was your favorite part about visiting La Ferme?
Well, so people that don't know, Where to Eat is a food show that Dave Bishop and myself and Derek Sidian put together, and it airs on the Fergus Now app powered by the Minnesota Motor Company. So if you don't have that, give it a download. Absolutely free to download. And, what it is we go to different area restaurants and showcase their signature dishes and what makes each restaurant unique in its own sort of way. And Dave and I and Derek, we traveled abroad to Alexandria, real far.
So far.
And went to La Ferme. And what I got to say first off is it was a very unique experience because we haven't gone to a restaurant that was 100% locally sourced. All the ingredients were farm to table, even down to the eggs they used to make the aioli for the Miracle Whip, or mayonnaise, I should say. But my favorite part about it, I'd have to say it's a toss-up between the tomato basil soup that they had. It was really unique flavor, and the chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. I was a big fan of those, but not to undercut the deliciousness of the sandwiches. The sandwich I got was called the Local, and what it was, all the ingredients are 100% locally sourced from Minnesota. The bread comes from a company where they mill their own wheat and make their own bread. The turkey is all local, even the tomatoes, the lettuce, and again, even down to the eggs that make the mayonnaise. very, very good. The bacon they made in-house, smoked and all that. So very good. Very good, I got to say. Even down to the chips are from Firm. So everything was very, very, very delicious.
Yeah, it was. Dave and I were kind of talking about those cookies yesterday and just how 'cause you got some of those cookies. How fast did those stick around at your house?
So I have made an effort to stretch out them as long as I could. I kept the dough where you could actually purchase the dough to bring home and bake your own cookies. And so I just make a couple every day or so and just kind of stretch the batch out as long as I could because they were very, very good.
Yeah, that sounds like the better way to do it. I I baked my whole dozen at one time, and then it was until after that that I remembered, oh yeah, my wife doesn't like coconut, and her family doesn't really like coconut.
Oh,
So we had this. So I basically ate the whole dozen. Luckily, my daughter does like coconut, so she helped me with a couple of them. But I probably had somewhere between 8 and 10 of the cookies within a couple of days.
yeah, they're really good. It's a very unique with the combination of coconut, nuts, oatmeal, and then the what was it, dark chocolate chips with like I just had to me it came off as almost like a 7-layer bar as a cookie. It just the textures and the flavors. It wasn't too sweet. It wasn't too like the combination of coconut. I'm not a big coconut fan. It's not the flavor that I don't like. It's the texture of shredded coconut to me. But the way they baked it in with the oatmeal, you really really couldn't tell. It had a nice bite to it. So very good.
I think we've given La Firm a lot of advertising this week. I think this is the third morning talk this week where we've talked about where to eat.
Hey, I'm zazzed about it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about a restaurant that goes all in when it comes to fresh, locally sourced ingredients. And like I told Matthew and his wife, it is got to be a feat to be able to accomplish that and maintain that. Just just the amount of effort that goes into it. And there's something to be said about their business too, because they have a second business where it's not farm to table, it's table to farm. It's the crowded table. They actually go to these locally sourced businesses, these farms, and they set up sort of a pop-up event where they bring the table and they showcase the farm's ingredients and prepare a large spread right there in house. So that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, and they've got the bank vault room.
Yeah,
That's super interesting.
yeah, that was very cool. And again, you could check that episode out and other great episodes like the Gobbler Grub and Pub and Callie's Cafe and other great places we go. Just check it out right there on the Fergus Now app.
Yeah, so let's
Oh, and I got to mention before we change subjects, we are on the Leighton Media Podcast Network now. So you can check out the Where to Eat Food Show on the podcast network and wherever you get your podcast. So whether it's on Spotify or well, that's about the only podcast network that comes to mind for me. That's where I get all mine. You can check it out right there and on YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. Check it out.
I watch most of my podcasts on YouTube Music. It's I already pay for YouTube Premium
Yeah, me
subscription
too.
because I hate the ads. So I usually use YouTube for most of my podcasts, but there are some where you got to go to other places. But pretty much everywhere I think is our podcast network is reaching out to. So we might talk a little bit more about that
Yeah, it covers all the bases.
in a little bit here. But let's dive into some of the serious discussions in the news right now.
Oh, boy.
President Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs for all nations except China. However, a 125% tariff on Chinese goods was imposed immediately due to what Trump called China's lack of respect for global markets. Representatives from over 75 nations have contacted the U.S. to negotiate trade matters.
So what's your thoughts on that? Are you thinking that's a kind of a positive thing? I did see that the Nasdaq, we had the largest market jump in history yesterday. That was rather incredible with the pause of the tariffs.
We may have had the largest market jump, but in all the articles that talked about that, there's a little fine print that says it's still below what the market was before Trump took office.
Ah, see,
It's that little,
therein lies the secret of media. Let's just leave out that little detail that it's below where it was before it started. So
yeah, it's all about perspective. And
absolutely.
I think the tariffs was a terrible idea. I was talking with Dave shortly after we got off the air yesterday. They're one of Trump's advisors, or I believe he became his financial advisor, Peter Navarro.
Okay.
He wrote a bunch of books about economics and tariffs, and he cited an expert named Ron Vera to like back up all of his claims.
Yep.
His publisher ended up having to resend out when they published new versions of his book. They had to have an asterisk that Ron Vera is a fictional character.
Oh my, really?
It is an anagram of Peter Navarro's last name.
So they had to recant a lot of the information, or did they just put an asterisk next to it?
They just put an asterisk next to it,
Ugh.
basically. But all of this tariff stuff that's based on expert advice is not necessarily expert advice.
Right. Yeah, I
And
did notice that. Even I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan Experience. It's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Even he's starting to kind of swing to the idea that this might not be the solution that we're looking for. To me, it just seems like a big global sized petty argument. Let's put the tariff on, and then it goes back and forth, and it just gets worse and worse. And really, there is no economic solution. It just everybody suffers.
Yeah, and the way they chose the tariff numbers didn't make sense. If you dig into that, the numbers that they used for their calculations
Okay.
weren't actually. They claimed that is how they determined what other countries tariff us,
Really?
but that wasn't an accurate statement. It was this whole. They took the deficit divided by the amount that we sell each country,
Sure. They're just kind of making things
and
up.
then saying that's the amount they tariff us, which isn't true. The tariffs are the price there. It just happens that we're exporting to them more than they are to us. So
Lovely.
that they're exporting more to us than they take in from us, that
Sure,
they
sure.
import from our materials, which is, which it's understandable. Like you want American companies to be exported more. Like we want to have our companies be making the money, and tariffs have their time and place.
Right.
But putting a 125% tariff on Chinese goods is only going to hurt everyone who relies on that.
Right.
The companies that rely on that.
I did see a response when a reporter was trying to interview one of the leaders of China regarding the 125% increase on the tariff, and they didn't seem too concerned. And that to me is almost even more concerning.
Yeah, because it really hurts us more than it hurts them. China's exporting materials out to everyone. Like everyone. So when it's only the U.S. and the U.S. is putting up these astronomical tariff numbers, they just said, like they did. They were like, okay, we'll hit you with a response tariff, and we'll see when you bulk.
Right. Yeah. It's sad that people are going on media, these leaders, and saying, "Don't retaliate, and you'll benefit." That's to me that is not how you should conduct yourself on a political or economic financial scale. Definitely not. Like, hey, just sounds like bickering on a very, very large scale and very dangerous.
Yeah. And in other news, deadly storms in the central U.S. triggered flood alerts in Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, and Arkansas. Major flooding persists with 26 river gauges at major flood stage. Governors urge vigilance as fatalities rise to 24 across multiple states. Historic rainfall has prompted emergency declarations in some of those states.
Wow.
We had the wildfires start off the year over in California and
Sure.
LA, and now
Now flooding.
we've got flooding. It's the pendulum just keeps swinging.
Well, I've got a rather interesting article that we could talk about, and it's kind of funny actually too. NASA is actually offering millions of dollars to recycle astronaut poo.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Due to space exploration, there's about 96 bags of human waste on the moon. Apollo astronauts left the dookie behind to lighten their spacecraft, but now NASA is looking for another solution and is willing to pay $3 million. The agency will be reviewing applicants of the Luna Recycle Challenge to see which contestant came up with the best way to recycle human waste on the moon. NASA said in a quote, it's committed to sustaining space exploration as we prepare for future space missions. We need to consider how to minimize various waste streams, including solid waste, the agency explained. NASA will soon select the most promising entries to develop functional prototypes. I kind of chuckled when I saw that, and I think to myself, do you remember the movie with Mark Wahlberg where he kind of played a space pirate lost on the planet Mars?
Yeah, The Martian?
Yeah, waiting survival, and how he sustained himself growing potatoes. Why don't we do something like that? Create a little dome environment on the moon and make an attempt to grow some vegetation.
I think there's a lot of things we need to be dedicating our funds to around the world right now.
besides,
here.
besides growing potatoes on the moon using human waste.
Exactly. I think that is so far not important enough and way too expensive to
What?
really. If Elon Musk wants to shift his gears on what he's focused on and do that, go for it. Or if Bezos wants to get on the space stuff,
Sure.
go for it. But for our governments, just don't touch it.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time we've wasted the country's funds on projects that seemed almost frivolous, to say the least.
No,
But
it
I
wouldn't.
digress.
But that's one of those things where there is at a certain point where advancement comes from creative places. So
Oh,
if
absolutely.
if anyone has any ideas for real good way to recycle astronaut poop,
Hey,
reach out to NASA.
$3 million. I could definitely use $3 million right now.
Oh yeah, like $3 million would go so far right now.
What would you do with $3 million, Derek?
I don't even
if you
know.
had $3 million tax, let's say after taxes, what would you do with $3 million?
I get a house.
Yeah,
That's got to be number one. Is get a house. Probably get a new car to have a car that I'm not concerned about breaking down on me at some point.
sure.
But otherwise, yeah, I don't know what else I would do with it. Buy the Nintendo Switch 2. That's what I would probably do with it.
Nice. I think you've shaved off about $500,000 there. I don't know how much a Switch is, but I imagine you're not going to tap into your $3 million large there. I'd probably do something similar. Put a large chunk of it away for when I get older, and there would be some frivolous costs. I would do a lot of traveling, being somebody that wants to see the world and experience things abroad. I would do a lot. We would have an international where to eat. Is what we yeah.
That would be interesting. I guess there are plenty of shows that go around nationally at least and
Sure.
are checking stuff out. But yeah, I think
Oh,
putting
yeah.
into stuff like that would be. I would love to be able to afford to work on a film or a short film at some point. I think that would be really, really fun to do, and that'd be a great use of that money.
I've always wanted to make movies. I think that would be something I would do as well. Considering I do a lot of writing. If you don't know, I've written a
Back
couple
with more
books.
Morning Talk with Mary Dolan and Dave Bishop. Brought to you by Pioneer Care and Fergus Falls.
Oops, that wasn't supposed to go off yet. One of those days.
Yeah, it happens. Well, like I was saying, I'd make a movie too. Like you said, some short films or a feature film. I would do something like that. I've written a few books, and I just actually Here, this is interesting. I just finished the script for a radio drama that I'm going to produce. It's Beneath the Underground Odyssey. So that'll be interesting.
And we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back on Morning Talk here on News Talk 1250 KBRF.
I'm Jessica at the Fergus Falls Monument Company. I'm the first person you see when you come through the door, and I also talk to customers every day on the phone. Many of them find choosing a memorial ahead of time is convenient and works best when there is time to plan and think about it. Planning ahead not only gets you the everlasting memorial of your choice, it also helps your family through the grieving process. At Fergus Falls Monument, we can help you plan ahead and choose a memorial made right here locally. Call or stop in or visit us online at foreverstonememorials.com.
I once booked a venue that was a logistical nightmare, too far from the hotels and too hard to find. It made our entire event feel rushed and stressful. That's when I decided to try the Bigwood Event Center. Being right off the interstate and a hotel on site, it made travel easy for everyone. They took care of all the setup and cleanup, letting me focus on my presentation instead of the details. It made our event run so much smoother, and I'll never go back to the old way. Meetings with impact begin at bigwoodeventcenter.com.
Good morning market update on the Red River Farm Network. I'm Randy Conan. Grain markets continue to trade mixed here. Wheat's on the downside. Got corn and soybeans trading on the plus side here. Paradigm Futures analyst Ken Beatles of the markets actually holding up pretty well here in the face of recent bearish news.
Been very interesting in that, corn, very specifically, corn has shrugged off numerous bearish items over the last couple of weeks. We had a bearish stocks report, market rallied. We had bearish trade news, market rallied. We've continued to move higher. We've got just very, very solid demand and fairly tight world corn balance sheets. And we're going into this season somewhat dry. All things considered, I don't think we should be surprised that, we're getting some strength ahead of this report.
And the livestock markets quietly lower here this morning.
Cattle markets down slightly. Of course, the April contract is in delivery here right now. Hogs are slightly higher in the June contract. April contract a little bit lower. It's a push-pull thing right now with cash markets versus all of the trade uncertainty. But we obviously like the 90-day pause, and we had a fairly sizable correction in both cattle and hogs. We wouldn't be surprised if it start to rally.
You're listening to the Red River Farm Network.
Here's the latest from the Minnesota Farmers Union. MFU Vice President Ann Schweigel shares an update on the series of town halls that they hosted where they received feedback from farmers and members of the rural community.
We've been hearing from rural residents and farmers here in the last 2 weeks, folks who feel like they're not being heard. So we're holding these town halls to hear directly from farmers and directly from rural residents. We're creating a report to share with our elected representatives, both state and federal, to tell them, exactly what people are thinking about, the policies that are being enacted both in St. Paul and Washington, D.C., and how that affects rural Minnesota. And we're going to be sharing the copies of those reports with them at our Week of Action coming up when we are in D.C. National Farmers Union is hosting a Week of Action, getting people to contact their members directly and share with them about the policies that are being enacted and how they affect farmers, family farmers.
Your voice in St. Paul and D.C., it's the Minnesota Farmers Union.
Get less weeds and more sugar with Spin-Aid herbicide, now available to Minnesota and North Dakota sugar beet growers for improved control of kochia, common lamb's quarters, and common ragweed. Looking for systemic effective disease control? Add Minerva to your spray program and knock out Cercospora leaf spot. Ask your local retailer about the Spin-Aid $100 a gallon grower rebate or visit BelchimUSA.com. Always read and follow label instructions.
Network. World Weather Incorporated senior meteorologist Drew Lerner is your trusted source for agricultural weather. From the northern plains,
we do expect some showers to develop and a couple of thunderstorms. The majority of the meaningful rain, though, is going to be in southern Canada.
to South America,
Buenos Aires, La Pampa, and Cordoba, but it doesn't occur until we get into next week, leaving plenty of time for changes in the forecast.
Drew Lerner, only on the Red River Farm Network. We're reporting agriculture's business.
May wheat, Minneapolis is down 3.5 cents, 6.05 1/4. Chicago May wheat down 5. Kansas City May wheat down 2 1/4. May corn 2 3/4 higher, 4.76 3/4. December up 1.5, 4.52 1/4. May soybeans 10 1/4 higher, 10.23. November soybeans 7 3/4 higher, 10.04 3/4. In Winnipeg, May canola 3.40 a metric ton higher, 6.54.80 Canadian. April live cattle down 40 cents at 202.40. June down 127 at 197.10. The May feeder cattle down 72 at 277.47. August down 72. And May lean hogs 27 cents higher, 86.40. June's up $1.42. This is the Red River Farm Network.
You want to feel important. You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters and that can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We felt that way too. I am Sergeant First Class David Crow from Farmington, Minnesota, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Minnesota Army National Guard soldiers. We are people just like you, and together we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit nationalguard.com/MN to find out more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Army National Guard, aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Save big money on your entire roofing project at Menards. Owens Corning Architectural Shingles are the #1 brand trusted by contractors. With a limited lifetime and up to 130 miles per hour wind warranty, protecting your home for years to come. Choose from over 40 options and save big money on all Owens Corning shingles now at Menards. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Amplify your brand with Leighton Media. Cohesive brand strategy starts here. At Leighton Media, we'll take your business on a journey of seamless connection across all marketing platforms, radio, digital, event marketing, and more, amplifying your brand's reach and impact. Ready to get started? Connect with Leighton Media today. Our team is ready to work for you. Leighton Media, your success starts here.
Check out FergusFallsDeals.com for food and drink in the area. We cover it all, and you can save money with places like BFW Post 612 in Fergus Falls, Garden Bar on 6th in Alexandria, Terrace Lanes in Wapaton, Old Town in Clitheroe, Perkins in Fergus Falls, Parallel 46 in Pelican Rapids, and Melby Outpost.
At FergusFallsDeals.com.
Community is important, and you'll find it at Pioneer Point. Spacious apartments, thoughtfully designed for older adults, provide the best in senior living. Heated parking and elevator access makes life easy. Your neighbors at Pioneer Point hold a welcoming, family-like approach to living. Choosing from an array of special features and options, you'll find many ways to define your lifestyle at Pioneer Point. Call or schedule your tour online today at pioneercare.org.
I'll never forget the time our annual meeting nearly fell apart because our venue was too small. We were practically elbow to elbow, and it was impossible to stay focused. Then I found the Bigwood Event Center, and it was a game changer. Their space had just the right feel, roomy and flexible, whether we needed a smaller setting or a larger space, or both. They even set up an outdoor area for our team. They thought of everything. It made all the difference. Meetings with impact begin at bigwoodeventcenter.com.
Your new truck is waiting for you at Minnesota Motor Company in Fergus Falls. This April, take advantage of cash discounts and finance offers that make driving off in your dream truck a reality. Contact their sales team for more information on programs like bonus cash offers, trade-in assistance, 2.9% APR, and more. The deals won't last long, so contact the sales team today.
Minnesota Motor.
South Pebble Lake Road, Fergus Falls.
Welcome back to News Talk 1250 KBRF. Morning Talk. It is currently 9:38. 9:38 and it's 39 degrees. Today in Fergus Falls, we're looking at a high of 50 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, northwest wind 13 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a low around 32. Getting into Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 58. Saturday, partly sunny, getting a high near 67. We're finally getting
Finally
to
there.
that time.
Yes, I can't wait. I am so excited for warmer weather. That 70 degrees is my favorite. Absolutely love it. 70 degrees and sunny. That'll be nice. I'm looking forward to the weekend with some sunshine and some warm weather. Be nice to get the two wheels out on the road.
I was going to ask you what you plan on using this nice weather for this weekend.
Yeah, well, if I can, assuming the roads aren't too sandy, which it always concerns me if I decide to take the motorcycle out, I would love to get out. I'm super stoked for grilling and just getting outside. Anything, as long as it's dry and warm. Get me outside. Take my guitar and do some grilling. And boy, I really want to do, Derek, is take the fishing rod out to the lake. But I don't think we're quite there yet. There might be some open water in a few spots, but not for the honey hole I like to fish in.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'd want to go fishing just quite yet. I'd be too worried that I'd fall in the lake and it'd be too
I won't
too
go on
cold.
the ice. I'm not one of those people.
Oh
But
no, I'm not saying on that. I'm like if it's an open water, you take your boat out. Like I would be way too worried about falling into the water.
oh yeah, I'm good with the water. Me and the water, we get along good. So
Me and the water are fine. It's just right now I feel like the lakes are probably still so freezing cold.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, if there was an accident, you would be you'd be hypothermic quick, I'm sure. But no, I'm just thinking if there was some open water, there's a couple spots outside of town here I like dipping the old rod in, and if there's just all I need, give me a couple 2-3 feet of open water, I'll drop that line in and pull some fish out. That's one of the things I like doing on the weekend.
Speaking of accidents, I have a funny story to talk about this morning.
Yeah.
So yesterday we had a sales award little ceremony over at Outstate Brewing. I'd never been to Outstate before. I'm not super into beers or seltzers, so
Right.
it was one of those things where it's like I've never been out there before, but I was like, all right, we're gonna go out there.
Yeah, nice place.
Another piece of information is we just started locking up a studio, our new video studio that we've been working on. We won't be able to showcase it quite yet, but you see it if you tune into the weekly recap on Fridays. I'm already in there in a section of the room, but we're really building it up, and so we're starting to lock it up when we're not using it. And so I just received a key for it, so I was testing it all day long, testing to making sure
The door
I
opens and locks.
don't lock my keys in there. I remember to lock it, make sure my key works, whole 9 yards. So we go straight from here over to Outstate Brewing. We do our little sales ceremony. I was there for I think an hour and a half, so like a half hour after it all wrapped up. And then I stopped at Fleet Farm, and then I went home. When I got home, I found out that my keys were missing, including the brand new key that I was just given
Oh, lovely.
yesterday. So I'm freaking out. I go back to Fleet Farm. I checked a few places I was at, nothing. Some of the salespeople were still at Outstate. Called them, they didn't see anything. I ran.
Panic sets in.
So I ran back to Fleet Farm after calling them. After I searched Fleet Farm, I went back out to Outstate just to double check the parking lot, all of that sort of stuff. Couldn't see anything. I came back here to see if it was in the parking lot at the station here.
Still nothing.
And nope, still nothing. Called our operations manager to say, hey, did you happen to pick it up anything up when you left or anything like that? And he said, no. Did you lose your keys? And I said, yes, I did. And I'm freaking out. But luckily one of our salespeople, Jason, happened to be coming by, so I was able to get into the building. I looked all around the building where I've been, nothing, nowhere.
Start to reserve yourself to the total loss.
Go back to Fleet Farm again, check again,
Oh,
go back home, see if somehow I missed it just dropping out my pockets in the 2 seconds I was in the driveway at home.
Yep.
Nothing.
Oh,
went,
no.
Went back to outstate after my wife got off work.
So
at
that's the second or the third time now you had gone back there.
This is the second time I went back out to outstate, but
Okay.
not the first time I've checked back in with them.
Sure.
Because I called Jacob right away, ended up going out there. After I left, I called the staff to make sure I left my phone number if anyone turned it in. Then going back out there at 8:30, the parking lot's mostly empty, nowhere out there. I ended up digging through the trash in the room we were using. Just to make sure. I was so confident it wasn't in there, but just to make sure, nothing.
Oh,
We've
no.
at this point scoured the whole place. I'm confident it is not at outstate. So I text Miles and I say the only place I could think of is that locked room. That is the only reasonable place. But I was so confident. I've been testing the keys and making sure I had the keys on me every time I locked that door yesterday. Turns out they were in there. But I had another. There was a set of time where I thought one thing is we had balloons up for the party, and you brought home a lot of balloons.
I did. I brought them to my grandchild,
Yeah.
which, funny enough, they weren't home when I delivered them, so I tied them to the doorknob. Boy, they took all night trying to figure out who brought balloons for Jaslyn.
Well, I only wanted to grab one, but I ended up with a few. When I had stopped at Fleet Farm, almost all of them but one of them flew out of my car.
Did you start thinking maybe the key got stuck?
I seriously thought that the key may have been stuck to because there were 4 balloons that flew away. 2 of them were a white pair, and they were floating fairly low, like still a little bit out of my reach, but they were fairly low enough that I was like, okay, is it any way possible that is what happened and they're somehow stuck to that? I had no idea.
No. The rationale starts going out the window as a result of prolonged time without. Where are these keys? What could have happened to them?
I followed all the rational lines. I took no detours in any of the places I went. I know exactly where I had been.
Yep.
But they weren't there. And yeah, I just locked them in the last time I had gone in there right before we left for outstate. So
I suppose because you can just lock it with your hand.
Yep.
When you leave.
Yeah, and that's for that door. That's like the way you have to lock it. Like you have to.
Yep.
You have to push button in on the inside, and then you can unlock it with the key, but you can't lock it. So yeah, that's all it
boy.
took was just one time.
I imagine the relief though when you finally got in there and go, oh, they're right there.
Yeah. Miles came into the newsroom because I get in before he does in the morning, most mornings at least. And Greg Brady was in, so I was able to get into the building. But I was working on my news stuff, and Miles had just gotten in. He walked in the door, and he's like, "Are these your keys?" And I was like, "Yes, they are."
Oh, funny. Well, in other news, like music related, for anybody that's a fan of Weezer, you'd be shocked to know that the wife of Weezer bassist Scott Schreiner was shot by police and charged with attempted murder. Weezer's bassist Scott Schreiner's wife, Jillian Lauren, was charged with attempted murder after firing a gun during a police manhunt in Los Angeles. Police were searching for 3 suspects when Lauren emerged from her home and began firing her weapon, which, to start with, is absolutely ludicrous. Possibly targeting one of the suspects, and after ignoring command, this is what gets me the most. After ignoring commands to drop the gun by police retaliated, obviously, which makes perfect sense, and shot and injured her. She surrendered to the police after 30 minutes, which again is crazy if you ask me.
30 minutes after she got shot?
Yes, 30 minutes before she surrendered, and was charged with attempted murder. 1 suspect was apprehended, while 2 remain at large. Lauren, if you didn't know, is a best-selling author has been married to Shriner since 2005, and they have 2 adopted sons. And Weezer scheduled to perform at Coachella this weekend. I don't know how I feel about that. That's crazy.
I think if I was scheduled to play at Coachella and that happened, I wouldn't be playing at Coachella anymore.
Yeah, I would maybe take a little time off to lawyer up your wife and try to figure something out. My guess is, what is going on with his wife to even consider the actions of what she did? You know, I've always said this, and I'll continue to say it my entire life. Nobody if you put your hands out and you're calm and you respond to police commands, I imagine it's possible that it's happened, but for the most of the time, people don't get shot when you respond to police commands. And it just blows me away that anybody would do this, because it doesn't sound like she was firing at police, but you would think that the moment police became involved, your hands would be up, the gun would be down, and there would not be an issue.
Just for your own safety,
Yeah.
you have to stop. You have to, like,
Absolutely.
at that point, police are involved. Like, okay,
Yeah, let the professionals do what they do.
not necessarily like drop your weapon, because there's always, at least you see in like movies and TV shows, there's always like all of a sudden, when they're not expecting it, criminal or a suspect just all of a sudden does something and
Yeah,
tragedy happens. But you need to like fully stop what you're doing if police are telling
Absolutely.
you to stop.
The details of this too, it seems a little bit like there might be some information missing, because it doesn't really allude to why she had a firearm and why she was shooting. Was she firing at suspects? And why was she firing at them? Did she know who they were? Clearly there's some sort of involvement. If she's being, you know, when you're getting to that point, I mean, people
Right.
don't just normally go, oh, yep, let's go right for the gun and start firing. So I don't know, wild.
Oh, but speaking of music, Zach, I imagine you listen to a lot of music when you're working.
Yes, absolutely. And when I'm not, music is a big part of my life.
Oh, well, did you know that bad background music can tank productivity at work?
I did know that.
Now, researchers in Ohio have found that when background music doesn't match employee mood, productivity tanks. This is true even if the playlist is upbeat. For example, a cashier working a busy register may prefer slow music to keep calm, but the store manager might think customers need a heavy beat to keep shopping. Music mismatch is linked to slacking off and breaking small rules. However, this effect can be combated by letting employees choose the music or by offering silent areas for breaks. About 13.5 million Americans work in jobs where background music is constant. I think I find that a lot because oftentimes I'm working in the newsroom and I'll have either KBRF or Real Rock Z103 playing, whichever one I left it on.
Yep.
And I think that affects my work and how I do. Like in the morning, I have to be listening to Real Rock Z103 because I come in live with Miles
Absolutely.
for like once an hour.
Right, and you got to be able to articulate and focus.
Yep, I've got to. But in between those, I'm trying to like look for news stories, write news stories. I think that might be a case where I see this happening with myself. Maybe I need to stop listening to that and turn on like KJ Country or something. Maybe I
Right.
need to switch that up.
I know
during those break
for
times.
I know for me, in the mornings I do a lot of writing, and prep for like the Rock Report and various things, different articles for where to eat and everything. And when I'm doing that, for me it's hard to listen to like rock music or things with a lot of action, like 977, where there's constant like you're just being barraged. To me it feels like a barrage of inability to focus in my own head. So I actually listen to like ambient noise and almost like a classical, or what do they call it, lo-fi, and that tends to that helps me focus a little bit.
One that I need to do it more often, but one that I started listening to this year was I actually listen to movie scores.
Yep.
Like-
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite?
I've got a few. I gotta love myself some John Williams. It has to be. It can't be like a music sound. Like it can't be a soundtrack because
Right, like with singing and voices and all that. You're talking
yeah,
like
it just gets. I think it gets too much when I'm trying to like work on stuff, especially if it's something I like to be listening to something that I know.
excellent.
But if it has lyrics, like I'm gonna be thinking about the lyrics and
Yep,
wanting to.
your mind kind of shifts to that.
But instead, so what? Probably the number one that I've actually listened to isn't like a full part of a movie score yet. It's the the piece of the score for the new Superman movie that they put in the trailer.
Oh, cool.
They released that like on its own shortly after the trailer was released late last year,
Excellent.
and that is one where it's like it I
Good.
just think it's so good that I just listen to like I will put my soundtrack on shuffle, but I'll start with that one.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, I really like listening to musical scores too. A big fan of James Horner, and some of the scores he did was like Braveheart and things like that. And to me, I really like obviously no singing, or if it is, it's almost like melodic humming or
Or
kind
like
of
choir.
yeah, choirish ambient. But yeah, music score. That's a good one. It helps me focus when I'm at home prepping dinner or something or doing some weekend cleanup. I tend to crank that up, or video game scores. A big fan of
yeah.
like Final Fantasy, the classic Final Fantasy score.
Yep.
Yeah, or like Chrono Trigger and those old Super Nintendo video games.
Yeah, another good one is the Minecraft music. They have a lot of ambient music in the Minecraft video game, and it's really just like it's sort of that lo-fi that you were talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it's
Just that
calming,
nice, calming.
perfect background music. Like I was at the library the other day, and I was doing some drawing and looking through some books they had from their art section, and I was listening to, it was like fantasy music, or the music that would be in the background, like scores from old sci-fi and fantasy movies like Sword and the Sorcerer, or just like old classic fantasy movies. And I'm walking around the library and I'm going, I feel like it's a real life video game here. We got perfect calming ambient music, like, oh, we're in the tavern now, or oh, you're walking through the city. So there's a lot of truth to that article about how music can affect you.
Well, that'll be it for our show today here on News Talk 1250 KBRF. Morning Talk brought to you every morning by Pioneer Care and the Fergus Falls Monument Company. Thank you for joining me this morning, Zach.
Absolutely.
And we will be right back with news here in just a second.
Most folks never think about the roof over their head until the day that they can't afford not to. At Lakes Country Roofing, we help folks think ahead about what could be going on right above their heads. With a free